Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode. So, if you all don't know Brantford, Brantford is a community about an hour, 15 or 30 minutes west of Toronto, off the 403. It is a beautiful, beautiful community. And we have the mayor of Brantford, Kevin Davis. He's so cute.
Now you're embarrassing.
We have the mayor in. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And I think probably every show should be about.
You know what? So this is a part of the Focus on Brantford show that is like, okay, the mayor is coming. Let's put Brantford on the map and let's talk about our beautiful here. But instead of speaking to just many issues that we are also pertinent issues that we're going to talk about. So for those who are new to Brantford, those who really don't know Brantford and the mayor, please break it down for us. Who is Mayor Kevin Davis?
Well, I am the mayor of the city of Brantford. It's a city of about 100,000. It has a very long history going back into the early 1800s, actually. Mm-hmm. And so I'm there, and I've been the mayor the last 4 years. And what drove me to be the mayor was really a love for my community and a desire to make my community better. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it wasn't pretty good to begin with, but every community has its challenges.
Yes.
And I thought that there were some challenges that our community wasn't addressing or not addressing as well as we could. And I thought that maybe I could help with that.
Yeah. So for those of us who say came in, okay, so before I get to that. You were born here in Brantford, or
actually not. I was actually born in Calgary, Alberta.
Oh.
And I grew up in Calgary, and I went to University of Calgary, and I came to Brantford in 1981, so about 41 years ago. And
holy moly!
So I practiced law here for 38 years. I raised a family here.
Yes.
So I've been here quite a long time.
Yes, most definitely. Even for those of us who haven't been here for a long time, you get here and Brantford feels right at home for many of us. So you were talking about some of the things that drove you to actually stand for, get into this race for mayorship that would be around 2018.
Right. It was the fall of 2018.
Fall of 2018.
Right.
Well, if you don't mind, and you can touch on some of those issues.
Well, some of the issues that, first of all, I have a long record of community involvement.
Yes.
I did serve as a counselor for 6 years in the 1980s and then retired because by the end of that 6 years, I had 2 children and felt that should become my primary responsibility.
Yes.
And then after that, every year I've been involved in some organization, for example, the Chamber of Commerce, retirement home, the local college here. So I've had a lot of involvement in a lot of different organizations and have come to know my community quite well in the 41 years I've been here. So when 4 years ago, what were the issues that I thought needed to be addressed? Well, one, homelessness and the opioid crisis.
Yes.
And the lack of a really good transportation plan, and also a community that was faced, we could see the growth pressures coming out of the GTA, and a community that wasn't quite yet ready to be able to manage that growth.
Yes.
And I thought I do have some skills that I developed as a lawyer that I thought might help the community in meeting those challenges and coming up with a good plan to deal with them.
Yes. And actually the homelessness, opioid crisis, and mental health issues were part of the questions, the big questions I really wanted to talk about, because for the most part, when you are passing through the downtown core, some of these are very visible. However, I would say that since 2013, myself, having looked at the transformation of the downtown core, it maybe on the surface, and this I should say, on the surface, to me, it looks like things are being, worked at. What are some of the things that you are working at to help resolve some of
Well,
these
first of
issues?
all, the history of our downtown is very similar to many other communities in
Yes.
Ontario. So going back, say, 40 years ago, it was a very vibrant, vital
Mhm.
heart of the city. A lot of commercial enterprises and stores and restaurants and theaters. But like many communities across North America, once shopping malls were established,
Yes.
we lost many of the stores in our downtown. And so in the 80s or 1980s, our downtown entered into a period of serious decline. And so there have been various councils over the last 3 decades that have brought forward various projects to try and rejuvenate our downtown. And generally they have focused on things like creating a square with a skating rink,
Okay.
converting a movie theater into a live arts center.
Okay.
And then also the decision about 20 years ago to bring Laurier here. So Laurier
Yes.
from Kitchener,
Yes.
they have a campus here. They call it Laurier Brantford, and
Yes.
also Conestoga. And so,
Mhm.
so we have a downtown campus for both the university and the college. And so those things were done, and they certainly helped the downtown. But then we began to see a lot of social problems, probably started about 10 years ago in the downtown. So those would be people who are homeless, or they have substance use issues, or serious mental health issues. They will tend to congregate in the downtown because that is where many of the services that they need and access, that's where those services are. So with this council and myself, it has been to focus on how do we deal with those, let's call them the people issues that impact our downtown. So that was the challenge.
Yes.
And then over the last 4 years, we've developed a plan. And of course, COVID slowed it down a bit.
Yes. Yes.
So we struck a task force to address the issue of homelessness. And then we also formed a downtown task force that just brought forward a report in the spring. So those two task forces have created reports that have given us like a roadmap for how we can how we can address those issues we have in our downtown.
Okay. Wow. Beautiful.
Because we don't have a roadmap, you're not going anywhere.
I always thought with the YMCA coming down there and sort of, it looks like the universities and colleges are expanding, because you see a lot of youth right now, and right behind the downtown. The library was rejuvenated, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's actually when I was on council, back in the late 80s. And what happened was there was a Woolworths there, which was a predecessor to Woolco. And it had been abandoned. And so we moved the library from what was a building built in I think it was 1910. Anyways, we moved it into the old Woolco. So that's where it is now. And so we repurposed that building. And then, of course, now it's become an important component of the Laurier Brantford campus.
It is. I utilize that space a lot. So thank you. Thank you. So let's see that it says Brantford. I was doing.
So you want to talk about what the plan says about the downtown?
Yes.
Yeah. So we looked at other communities having a downtown plan. We're not unique in that sense. And so when you deal with issues like that, you always look at other communities to see what they have done and what's worked for other communities. And so we decided, and it wasn't just the city, there were a lot of stakeholders, the Business Improvement Association, representatives from Laurier, Conestoga, and the health unit, et cetera. So we decided as a group that we need to focus on 3 areas. One area is making people feel safer and secure who are using the downtown, because many people will not go downtown because they think it's unsafe. There's a whole series of initiatives we've done and are continuing to do. The second was help for those who are vulnerable and need help, and doing that more effectively, and not necessarily in the downtown. Right. And then the third component is doing what we have to do to make the downtown more attractive for people to live. And that's more than just students. So all of it's sort of focused around safety, security, helping the vulnerable, and bringing people downtown, because that living component also included trying to expand the events and programming downtown.
Okay.
And so we're working our way through the initiatives, and I think it's already having some impact.
I from this end of the aisle, I believe so, because I see the high rise also coming in through, and even though there's still a charm to Brantford downtown, an old city charm, but also with a fresh kind of look coming into. And
well, it'll be even fresher in about 5 years, because like many old downtowns that have been in place for a century or more, the pipes underneath the road, they're about 100 years old and they keep bursting. And so so the infrastructure isn't in place to support high-rise development, which, tall buildings, residential buildings, which you want in a downtown. And so over the next 5 years, the city's spending about $30 million to two major roads, and basically pulling the roads up, replacing all the pipes, and then redoing the road and the sidewalks and the lighting. And so there'll be a consistent theme through the downtown that'll reflect our history, but also give the downtown a more modern look, but based on our history.
Yes. And I understand the City Hall has moved into this beautiful space that I'll have to make a visit to.
You could do a show on that alone. It's a building that's 100 years old, and usually when a city hall moves, it's moving to a big new building. We decided to move into a building that was the post office. Had been there about 100 years and had been not abandoned, but no longer used by the federal government. And so City Hall is now in that building. It's a beautiful historic building. It's worked really well for this new City Hall, and it reflects our history. And by having the City Hall in this building, we're making sure that it's there for another 100 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. And there's parking. And there's parking. So I was doing a bit of research, and Brantford ranks at 20% of the best places or communities to live in Canada. In your view, why is that?
Where does it rank? Because I hear a lot of different rankings.
20%, top 20%.
Yes. A couple of factors. One, I guess it's location. We're centrally located, probably about halfway between Toronto and London, Ontario. And then to our north, we have Kitchener-Waterloo. And then to the south, about an hour away, beautiful Lake Erie and the shores of the northern shores of Lake Erie. So and also we have the Grand River that runs through Brantford, a very historic, beautiful river. So we have we have location, we have natural features that make the community quite attractive. We also have a very vibrant local economy. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in Ontario. And also the housing here, although very expensive, it is less than most parts of the Greater Toronto area.
Yes, that is right. Now it's
and also there's many newcomers that come to Brantford. They tell me they also like the fact that it's a slightly slower pace than it is, say, in Toronto.
It is.
There's less traffic, there's less congestion, and there's more of what's called a community spirit.
There is. However, that is changing. So my next question is about the rapid development of Brantford. And I normally hit the trails, right behind this place, and all I hear is articulators and powers. It's difficult to see some of these animals that we're so used to seeing early on in the year. What are we doing? As much as we want development, what are some of the things that City Hall, yourself, are putting forth to keep these natural elements that bring many people here?
Well, we have, we're investing more money in our parks and making them even more beautiful. And certainly those areas of the city that have unique heritage, unique environments, such as the River Valley, that is protected by both the city and the Grand River Conservation Authority.
Okay.
And then the areas that the city is expanding into, the northern part of our city. There's a beautiful ravine system that runs through part of those lands. And in the plans we're developing for those lands, there is quite a lot of protection built in to protect those natural areas. We've increased the buffer, like the distance in those areas and the residential development, more than what you see in other parts of the city.
Okay.
And also in those lands, there's an aquifer underneath some of those lands. And so we are going to have using some pretty special techniques to protect the groundwater from the surface water that runs off. I'm really following some of the best practices from Kitchener, which many areas of Kitchener has an aquifer underneath it.
Oh, wow. That's nice. That's nice. That's beautiful. So now let's get to the nitty gritty. October 24th.
Well, the other thing I just add to that is so yeah, growth, it's like the growth that's coming out of the Greater Toronto area.
Yes.
And there is a green belt that the province set up that separates us from the GTA, Hamilton.
Yeah.
And it's probably, let's say it's about 10, 15 miles wide. And so that has created a green buffer between us and the GTA. And so now what's happening is there's been so much development in the GTA that this growth is almost moving over.
It has moved
the boundary.
over.
It's almost, I tell you, it's almost like a tsunami. And it's happening everywhere, whether you're Oshawa or Pickering or Barrie or, Guelph, that sort of thing. So, you learned, you accept that the growth is going to happen. We're part of the fastest growing area in North America.
And even Simcoe.
And
Paris,
so you know what's going to happen.
So
you can't prevent it from happening. And if you don't do something to accommodate it and manage it, then the cost of your rental costs, the cost to rent an apartment, the cost to buy a home will just skyrocket.
Yes.
It's because that's a supply and demand thing.
Yes.
So
So the homelessness, I was doing, when I was doing the research, there was the Arrodale TIF. I'll call it a TIF. But it's still going on because it needs to. The cost of housing is really, at one point in time, it was say $1,400 or $50, maximum $1,600 to rent a 4-bedroom house for a family.
Right.
When all this started, it just skyrocketed to over $2,000. So for a family that cannot afford, that really puts families, children at risk of having shelter and even the basic necessities of food. So what is the plan moving forward for the Shellard? Is it Shellard Lane?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, why don't we talk about rental? And so if you look at the rental market, it covers people from many different walks of life and many different needs. And so what the city does, what the city builds with the County of Brant, are developments that serve the needs of those who are most in need, those who are on Ontario Works, who are on Ontario Disability. And so they cannot pay market rent.
Yes.
And so their rent is what's called geared income, or maybe subsidized. Yeah. And so it's the city's responsibility to build those developments, and it's very expensive. And when we came into office 4 years ago, there really was no coherent plan to build, other than a plan that just said, well, if the federal provincial governments give us some money, we'll do something. And so we decided that wasn't good enough. And so we developed a pretty robust plan to develop 1,000 units over 10 years, particular part of the rental market. And it costing a lot of money to finance, well over $100 million. And so to avoid slamming the property taxpayer with a huge property tax increase, we decided to take our second golf course, and we're the only city our size in Canada that has 2 golf courses, and have sold it. And the money from that, including the property tax over the next 10 years, will go into that housing fund, about $30 million. Yes. So that's one part of the market. Then you have the bigger part of the rental market, which are people that they're working,
Yeah.
And maybe they're making a little bit more than minimum wage, and they can't afford $2,000 a month.
Absolutely not.
So that's a combination of a couple of different things, but really it comes down to building more rental units and encouraging. That's usually private builders that do that.
Yes.
So we have various programs that are intended to incentivize that, encourage builders to build rental units, not condos. In fact, this past week at City Council, we approved 3 or 4 different developments. When I say approve, I mean approve through rezoning, totaling about 1,000 rental units.
Okay.
And some of them are large part of them are affordable, and attainable. And attainable means that they're financed through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation.
Okay.
And that's money that goes there. And in return for that, they have to provide for 20 or 30 years units that have reduced rent. When I say reduced, I mean less than market rent. And then also you can have, we really had no rental developments in Brantford for a decade or two.
Yeah,
so we have another program. It's a tax relief program that's helping to relieve development charges for certain types of rental buildings. So we've done a lot. We've got plans in place. We're beginning to see the impact of that now. Builders that seem more interested in building rental buildings.
Yes.
And so when if you have one rental unit and 10 people who want to rent it, then guess what happens to the rent? If you have 10 people that want a rental unit and there's 8 rental units available, guess what? It either goes down or it stays stable. And that's it's as simple as that.
I think it's the basic demand and supply when it comes to economics. Yes. Yeah. So now that we've talked about rental, let's also talk about the human landscape of Brantford.
Quite varied. Well, certainly it's changed with 40 years I've been here. When I came here, it was a community that was primarily, let's just say, white Anglo-Saxon.
Yes.
There were some fairly large ethnic communities that primarily Western European, Polish, Italian, that had immigrated usually mostly after World War II. And they're very large communities. But we've seen over the last 20 years, as we have throughout Canada, that our community has attracted people from other parts of the world. And so our community has become, over the last 20 years, much more diverse and varied. In fact, there was a study done that says 30% of the people in Brantford are either from another country or the first generation of immigrants. And I'll bet you 40 years ago, I suspect that was less than 5%. So it's been a period of adjustment for our community, and myself as mayor, what I do and what I try and promote all the time is that we need to be a welcoming community, and we need to welcome those who are coming to our area, either from parts of Canada or other parts of the world, for a couple of different reasons. One, many of the employers in our community are crying out for workers. And so you have to increase the amount of people living in your city to help deal with that. And frankly, people of my generation who were born and grew up in Canada, we didn't have enough children for economic reasons. But there's also a more important reason. And that is, I think when you have a diverse community, it's more interesting. There's way more options. There's way more options in terms of worship. There's more options in terms of recreation. Like, for example, we're now talking about setting up cricket fields. There's way more options of shopping and rents and entertainment. And so I think it makes for a much more interesting, attractive community.
The world comes right to your doorstep.
Exactly. And also,
and you get somebody like me, Bernadette, to disturb you.
Right. And it's, when people come from other parts of the world, especially, they come with different ideas and different perspectives. Sometimes can enrich and benefit your community. Yeah. It could be ideas about business and how to carry on business, or entertainment, or food preparation. Yeah. So but for those who've grown up in Canada, what they grew up in was slightly different. Yeah. And so it's been a period of adjustment. But I think a mayor and a council and a city have an obligation to assist people in making that adjustment. And certainly we've been doing that at the city, and it's important for our city. It's important for the people that come to the city.
Yeah.
And as I said, I kind of know what it is to be a newcomer to the city since I was a newcomer in 1981. So I have a slightly different perspective on it than someone who has grown up there.
Yes, yes. And if from my point of view, I think Brantford is getting the best of both worlds in the sense that many of those coming in, say professionals coming to this part, myself included, professionals coming in, and that changes the dynamics of the expectations of Brantford and the future of Brantford most definitely.
Right.
So it's beautiful, and I love walking on the trails and saying my good mornings, hello, how are you?
You're right, Bernadette. Newcomers to Brantford, whether they come from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, they usually come with passion.
Yes.
And courage. Really, it takes courage to get up and move.
It's true.
And so they come here, I think, really committed to doing the best they can possibly do and to help their community. And you're right, many come with skills that we need for in healthcare. We have a healthcare shortage. And so professionals that come here or nurses trained in other parts of the world, that helps us. It makes our healthcare system better.
Yes, it does. However, Canada has its challenges with blocks in, accessing, utilizing doctors, nurses from other parts of the world. And meanwhile, Germany is accessing, utilizing teachers and, into the system, and it's moving so flawlessly to add more to it. So
I think we're seeing that start to change, though. Both provincially and federally, just because there is such a shortage, particularly in the healthcare field.
Yes.
And so, necessity is the mother of invention. And so when you have that kind of shortage and people's care suffers, you do, as a government, you do what you got to do to make it better.
Trust me, which is rather sad. I don't want to bring work issues in nursing into this conversation, but it is rather sad. The burned out rate at which nurses and doctors, healthcare individuals are suffering. Oh my goodness.
We covered a lot of ground here.
We have covered a lot of ground.
And you can see, I can talk about anything. You can't stop me.
We will do the City Hall one. And then you'll be home.
Oh, we'd have to do that on location.
On location.
And that would definitely be one show.
Yes, my user will be very happy with that. He's already smiling. Hi, guys. I want to say a very big thank you to the Mayor of Brantford, Kevin Davis. October 24th.
Yes.
We didn't talk even about that.
Yeah, there's something happening October 24th. Oh, yeah, there's an election.
There's an election October 24th. Yes.
And that's a municipal election all across Ontario. And I encourage people to get out and vote because municipal elections historically have the lowest voter turnout. And really, municipal government has a much greater impact on people's lives than any other form of government. And it's an important duty that everybody has, being part of a democracy, to get out and vote. And I would ask you to do that and ask you to give serious consideration to supporting me.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was the question I was about to ask. Why should we consider you? Why should I vote for you?
Well, what you do, I think if you look at my record, you'll see a mayor that's pretty committed, very hardworking, and I try to approach problems that we have and opportunities too that we have, and try and bring to it everything I've learned over my 65 years, which is I've done a lot of different things.
You're 65?
Yeah, I'm actually 67.
Oh, no,
we don't have to say that. But so I think the record of the last 4 years shows that I've been an active mayor in making this commitment. But what's also interesting is it really takes about a year or two to figure out how to be a mayor. And I've learned, and all the way through my life, I've been in a lot of different situations. And what you have to do to succeed in life is you rise to the challenge and you innovate and adapt. You get better. And I think I have gotten better. I think I'm a better mayor. And it's interesting what part of me has improved. And I would never have thought this 4 years ago. But my life as a lawyer was driven by logic.
Yes.
right? And emotion was put to the side in my professional life. And what I've realized is when you're an elected official, certainly logic is quite important, but also you have to account for the emotional side of every issue. And that's something that I've had to adapt to. And I think I've actually grown as a person through this process, and that I'm better connected to my human side.
Now
and that lawyer logical part of my brain has had to make room for other considerations.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think I'm being signaled, so thank you so much. October 24th, there's an election, municipal. Make sure you vote.
Yes.
And all the information will be on the Brantford city website. All information you need is there.
Right.
I've checked it out.
Right, and if you're interested in seeing my position on some issues, we have a website, Davis for Mayor, and on that we run 2 or 3 blogs that are done in kind of conversational style, talking about some of the same issues we just talked about today.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Guys, this has been the Nana Yaya Show. If you watched and you heard the name Bernadette, yes, that is me as well.
Oh, I was using another name.
So that is me as well. So the show is
called... many personalities then.
Actually, this has a little bit of, how do you call it? You have your English name that you go to school with, and then you have your home name. So home is Nana Ya Yeboah.
Okay. Well, maybe we should do a show and I'll interview you.
Tell me when, where, and I'll be there. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so very much for taking time out of this hectic time of yours. I know you got to bounce, as the young people say. Right. And we will catch up with you on the trail or in office one of these days. Thank you so much.
Okay,
any last stuff for your viewers and supporters?
Just as I said before, just get out there and vote.
Get out there
your democratic rights.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, and we'll be back with you on Focus on Brantford on a different topic, different issue next time. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. If you're in Brantford, please help promote this program. This is Focus on Brantford with the mayor in the house.
In the studio.
In the studio. In the studio, yes.
Your expression.
This is the Nana Yaya Show.
Your expression.
This is the Nana Yaya Show.
Your expression.
This is the Nana Yaya Show.